In this video, I'll be giving you instructions on how to crochet a mallard duck, just like this one. But if you want to crochet a chick, just follow the same instructions as the mallard duck, except without all of the color changes. And if you prefer to follow a written pattern, I'll be selling the pattern for this duck in the form of a PDF on my Etsy store, which I'll have linked in the description of this video. Now let's crochet a duck. We're going to start by making a magic ring. So I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to make a cross over my two fingers, hold my yarn. This is what it looks like on the other side. I'm going to take my hook and on this side of the X, I'm going to go under, over, hook this yarn here and pull it under and twist towards myself. I'm going to place my finger on this loop to keep it from sliding, and then I'm going to hook under over this piece of yarn here and pull it through the loop. And that's how you make a magic ring. For round one, we're going to crochet a total of 6 single crochet stitches into the magic ring. So I'm going to insert my hook into the magic ring and I'm going to crochet my single crochet stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And after crocheting 6 single crochet stitches into the magic ring, I'm now going to close the magic ring, and I'm going to do so by pulling on this tail yarn here until the hole closes. The next round is an increase round, and an increase means we add a stitch. For round 2, we are increasing in each stitch in the round, so a total of 6 increases, bringing our stitch count from 6 to 12. So to start round 2, I'm going to insert into the next stitch, and the first stitch of round 2 is an increase, so I'm just going to crochet the first single crochet of that increase, and now I'm going to place my stitch marker into this stitch, and I always like to place my stitch marker into the first stitch of the round. So to crochet an increase, we need to crochet a total of 2 single crochet stitches into one stitch. So I already crocheted 1 single crochet into the stitch, so now I'm going to insert back into that same stitch I already crocheted a single crochet in, and I'm going to crochet a second single crochet stitch in order to complete the increase stitch. So I've just crocheted 2 single crochet in 1 stitch. And now I'm going to insert into the next stitch and crochet my second increase stitch. So again, I'm going to crochet 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. So I've now done 2 increases. So now I'm going to do the same thing 4 more times. I just reached the end of round 2, and at the end of round 2, we should have a total of 12 stitches in our round. And now I'm going to start round 3. So I'm going to take out my stitch marker, insert my hook into the next stitch, and crochet my first stitch of round 3, which is a single crochet. And I'm going to place my stitch marker back into the first stitch of this round. So for round 3, we're going to crochet 1 single crochet, 1 increase, a total of 6 times in the round. So I already crocheted my first single crochet, so now I'm going to insert into the next stitch and crochet an increase. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet in 1 stitch to complete an increase. So I've just crocheted 1 single crochet, 1 increase, so now I'm going to insert into the next stitch and do 1 single crochet, and then insert into the next stitch and crochet an increase. So we're doing this a total of 6 times. So I'm going to do my 1 single crochet, 1 increase 4 more times until I reach the end of the round. I just finished round 3, and at the end of round 3, we should have 18 stitches in our round. So now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and I'm going to insert into the next stitch and crochet my first stitch of round 4, which is a single crochet stitch, and place my stitch marker. So for round 4, we're going to crochet 2 single crochets, 1 increase, a total of 6 times in the round. And I already have my first single crochet here. So now I'm going to insert into the next stitch, crochet my second single crochet, and now I'm going to insert into the next stitch and crochet an increase. So we're doing this a total of 6 times in the round. So I'm going to do it one more time here on camera. So 1 single crochet, insert into the next stitch, 2 single crochet, insert into the next stitch, and increase. And now I'm going to do the rest off camera. I just finished round 4, and at the end of round 4, we should have a total of 24 stitches in our round. So now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and crochet the first stitch of round 5, which is a single crochet stitch. And the next 3 rounds are going to be very simple. So from round 5 to round 7, we're going to be crocheting 1 single crochet stitch into each stitch in the round. So we're not going to be doing any increases in this round. So we're just going to be crocheting 1 single crochet into each stitch. So our stitch count for the next 3 rounds is going to remain 24 stitches. I just finished round 7, and after round 7, we should still have a total of 24 stitches in our round. And now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and crochet my first stitch of round 8, which is a single crochet stitch. In round 8, we're going to start creating the beak. And I have my yellow yarn here ready to go for the beak. But before we get to the beak part of this round, we're going to start by crocheting 11 single crochet stitches. So I already have my first single crochet. So now I'm going to crochet 10 more single crochets in the color green. So in this round, like I mentioned, we're going to start creating the beak, which is going to be done in the color yellow. So when looking at the pattern on the screen, you'll notice that there is a letter in front of some of the stitches. So for example, the letter G indicates when to use the color green, and the letter Y indicates when to use the color yellow. I just finished crocheting a total of 11 single crochet stitches. And now I'm going to start using the color yellow to create the beak. But I'm not going to cut my yarn because we're not changing colors. I'm just going to start using the color yellow. And we're going to start by creating a slip knot. So I'm just going to take my yarn here and make my slip knot with my yellow yarn, and I'm going to place my slip knot onto my hook. And next I'm going to crochet a slip stitch into the front loop only of the next 3 stitches in the round. So with my slip knot on my hook, I'm going to insert into the front loop only of the next stitch in the round, and I am going to take the working yarn from my slip knot, and now I'm going to crochet a slip stitch. So I'm going to hook my yarn, pull it through, and then pull my second loop right through the first loop in order to create a slip stitch. And we want to crochet a total of 3 slip stitches. So now I'm going to insert into the front loop only of the next stitch in the round, and I'm going to crochet a second slip stitch, and I'm going to insert into the front loop only of the next stitch again and crochet a slip stitch, and this is my 3rd slip stitch, which means it's also the last slip stitch. So now I'm going to just put this down, grab my scissors, and now I'm going to just cut my yarn, and now I'm going to fasten off my yellow yarn. And that's what that looks like. So this is the first part of the beak. This will just be the upper part of the beak. We're going to be doing something similar to this in the next round, right at the bottom here, but we'll get there in just a moment. So this is what it looks like. And now I'm going to place my hook back into the green loop. So now I'm going to crochet a single crochet stitch into the back loop only of the next 3 stitches in the round. So I'm going to insert into the back loop only the next stitch here, and on a single crochet, and I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to insert into the back loop only of the next stitch and single crochet. And now one last time into the back loop only of the next stitch And that's what that looks like. And now I'm going to continue to crochet a total of 20 single crochet stitches in order to complete the round. And these stitches are just some simple single crochet stitches. So 1 single crochet into each stitch. So a total of 20 single crochets. And yeah, this will bring us to the end of round 8. I just reached the end of round 8, and at the end of round 8, we should still have a total of 24 stitches in our round, just because we're not counting these stitches here for the beak as stitches that are a part of this round. And now I'm going to insert into the next stitch, crochet my first stitch of round 9, which is a single crochet stitch. And in round 9, we're going to be completing the beak. So we're going to be doing something similar in this round as we did in the previous round. But first we're going to start again by crocheting 11 single crochet stitches. So I already have my first single crochet here. Insert into the next. Crochet another single crochet. So I'm going to do a total of 11 of these. I just finished crocheting the 11 single crochet stitches at the start of round 9. And this next part is a little complicated, but I will try my best to explain it. So again, I'm going to take my hook out of this green loop here, and I'm going to put this down for a moment and pick up my yellow yarn. And now I'm going to make a slip knot like we did before. I'm going to place the slip knot onto my hook. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the bottom loop of the first yellow slip stitch from the previous round, and then into the front loop only of the next stitch in our current round. So with my hook through both of those loops, I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to crochet a slip stitch. And now we have to do the same thing 2 more times. So I'm going to insert into the bottom loop of the next slip stitch from the previous round and into the front loop only of the next stitch in our current round and crochet a slip stitch. And one more time. And now that I've done that a total of 3 times, I'm going to cut my yarn and fasten off. And that's what that looks like. And we still have to continue with our green yarn here to complete round 9. So I'm going to place my hook back into the green loop, tighten it, and with the green yarn we have to crochet a single crochet stitch into the back loop only of the next 3 stitches in our current round. So I'm going to insert into the back loop only of the next stitch, crochet a single crochet, do that again, and a 3rd time. So that's what that looks like. And now we're going to crochet a total of 20 single crochet stitches, still in the color green. And this will bring us to the end of round 9. I just reached the end of round 9, and we should still have a total of 24 stitches in our round, because again, we are not counting these stitches here for the beak as part of the stitches in our round. Now I'm just going to take my hook out, put it aside, and before continuing on, we are going to weave in these ends here, and there is a specific way to do it. So I'm going to start by just doing these ends right here. It doesn't really matter which side you start on, but we are going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to take both of these ends and weave them through a darning needle, and we want to weave in both of the ends through the stitch hole right next to the upper part of the beak, and we want to do it right next to that stitch. So this stitch hole right here. So I'm going to weave in both of these ends through the same hole. And now I'm going to tie a knot on the inside of the plushie just to secure both of these ends. And you can cut them if you want, but there's no need since they're going inside the plushie. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I am going to weave both of these ends through this hole right here. So the stitch hole right next to the upper part of the beak. And that's what the beak looks like. So now we've fully completed the beak, and I'll show you what it looks like from all the different angles so you can compare. And at this point, if you want, you can add the safety eyes. You can do it later on as well, but I'm going to add my safety eyes now. So you want to place your safety eyes between round 7 and round 8. So just between these two rounds right here. So I'm going to place this eye right here with 1 stitch of space from the beak. And I like to leave 4 stitches of space between both eyes. So my next eye is going to be placed right here. So it sort of looks like there's like 1 stitch of space between where I'm placing the eye and the beak. And now I'm just going to place the backings. So I'm using metal backings. I like these kind of safety eyes because they're super secure. Now that we've added the safety eyes, I'm going to move on to the rest of the duck. So now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and crochet the first stitch of round 10, which is a single crochet stitch. And round 10 is an increase round. So we're going to be crocheting 1 single crochet, 1 increase, a total of 12 times in the round. So I already have my first single crochet done. So now I'm going to insert into the next stitch and crochet my increase. So 2 single crochet stitches in 1 stitch. And now I'm going to repeat what I just did here, 1 single crochet, 1 increase. I'm going to repeat that 11 more times. So a total of 12 times in the round, we're going to be crocheting 1 single crochet, 1 increase. I just finished round 10, and in round 10, we did a total of 12 increases, which brought our stitch count from 24 to 36, which means we should have a total of 36 stitches in our round at this point. And now I'm going to take out my stitch marker, and I'm going to crochet my first stitch of round 11, which is a single crochet. But before completing this first single crochet, I'm actually going to stop while I still have 2 loops on my hook. And I'm going to take my white yarn and I'm going to complete this first stitch of round 11 with white yarn. So I'm going to take my white yarn and I'm going to place it on my hook, and I'm going to complete this single crochet with the color white. And now I'm going to place my stitch marker into this stitch since it's the first stitch of round 11. And now I'm going to continue to crochet the rest of round 11 in the color white. So for round 11, we're just going to be crocheting 1 single crochet into each stitch in the round. And since this round is pretty straightforward, I am going to crochet the rest of it off camera, and I'll come back once I reach the end of the round. And at the end of round 11, we should still have a total of 36 stitches in our round. And before starting the next round, we are going to switch to the color brown. But before we do any of that, we're first going to use this brown yarn to make our wings. So I'm going to take my hook out of the loop of my last stitch of round 11, and I'm going to take my brown yarn, and we want to make 2 wings. So I'm going to take my brown yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. But before I make the slip knot, I want to make sure that I'm leaving a nice long starting tail, since we're going to be using this starting tail later for sewing. So I'm going to make a slip knot. And as you can see, I have a nice long starting tail here. And now we're going to make a chain of 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to crochet 2 half double crochets. So this is the first chain next to our hook, which means that this is the second chain. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to insert into the second chain from my hook. So this chain right here, so I'm going to insert into it, hook my yarn, pull it through the loop, and with 3 loops on my hook, I'm going to hook my yarn and pull it through all 3 loops at the same time. And now I'm going to yarn over and insert into the next chain. So this one right here, and I'm going to do the same thing, crochet a second half double crochet. And now I'm going to cut my yarn, and we want to leave a long end tail. So we don't want to cut our yarn too short. And now I'm going to fasten off. And now we have 1 wing. And now I'm going to make a second. So we're going to do the same thing for the second wing. Now with both wings completed, I am now going to continue on to round 12 of the body. So I'm going to take out my stitch marker and I'm going to insert into the next stitch in the round. And with this stitch, we're going to be changing colors. So before completing this stitch with my white yarn, with just 2 loops on my hook here, I'm going to take my brown yarn and I'm going to complete this stitch with brown yarn. And I'm going to place my stitch marker into the first stitch of round 12. So this stitch right here. And now we're just going to continue crocheting the rest of this duck. So the rest of the body is going to be crocheted in the color brown. But right now we're just going to focus on crocheting the next 2 rounds. So this current round here, so round 12 and then round 13. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to add the wings before we continue on to round 14. So I'm going to crochet rounds 12 and 13 off camera since it's just 1 single crochet into each stitch in the round. And then I'll come back to show you what to do afterwards. Just before continuing, I am going to cut both my white and green yarn that I didn't cut previously. So since we're done using them now, I'm going to cut them. But I'm not cutting them too short because we're going to need them long enough to tie knots with later on to secure our ends. I just finished round 13 and we should still have 36 stitches in our round. And I think now is a good time to show you how to add the wings. So I have my 2 wings here ready to go. So I'm going to take one of them. And essentially what we're going to be doing to add these wings onto the body is we are going to use these yarn tails still attached to the wing. And we are going to tie this wing onto the body. Personally, I like to do it this way because it allows me to avoid doing any sewing. So the placement of the first wing is between round 11 and round 12. Over the 11th stitch from the start of the round. So between rounds 11 and 12, so this is round 11 and this is round 12, so just between these 2 rounds and over the 11th stitch from the start of the round. So I'm going to count from the start of the round, which is where the stitch marker is placed. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So this stitch right here is the 11th stitch from the start of the round. So I'm just gonna hold on to this right here. And now I'm going to look at my wing. And before I add the wing, I just want to quickly take a look here and mention that there is a right side and a wrong side to the wing. And it doesn't really matter which way is facing up when you add the wing onto the body, but I try to place my wing so that the right side is facing up. So if we take a look at the wing, this right here is the right side. And I can tell because the stitch is facing me. It's really hard to tell with plush yarn though, but this is the little V of the stitch right here of my half double crochets. And so when it's facing me, that means it's the right side. And we can tell this is the wrong side because the V of the half double crochet stitch is on the other side. And on the wrong side, we only see 1 loop of that half double crochet. So with this being the right side of the wing, we want this side facing up like this. And when we add it this way, it makes it so the wing flips up a little bit, but if we add the wing so that the right side is facing down, it ends up actually curving down a little bit rather than flipping up. So it doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to mention that in case you wanted your wings to flip up a little bit. It's such a minor detail that it actually doesn't really make a huge difference which way you add it, but I wanted to mention it in case you wanted to do the same. So this is the right side of the wing. I have this end of the wing threaded through my darning needle. This is my 11th stitch, and I'm gonna insert my first yarn tail through this side of the 11th stitch. This is the 11th stitch. We have to insert on both sides, and I'm going to start by inserting on this side. And now I'm going to thread the other end through my darning needle. And now I'm going to insert my darning needle through the stitch hole on the other side of the 11th stitch and pull my end through. So that's what it looks like with the first wing added. And now we're gonna add the second wing, which is the wing on this side right here. So for the second wing, we're gonna be adding it between rounds 11 and 12, just like the first wing. So right along here, so between rounds 11 and 12. And we are going to be adding this wing over the 10th stitch from the end of the round. And we're gonna start counting, not from where the stitch marker is placed, but the stitch right before it. So the last stitch of the round, which is this one right here, we're gonna start counting from this stitch here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we're gonna be placing the wing over the 10th stitch right here between rounds 11 and 12. So right here, and I'm gonna start by inserting my first strand here, thread the other end through my darning needle, and now I'm going to insert on the other side of the 10th stitch and pull my end through. And again, I made sure to have the right side of my wing facing up so that it curves upwards slightly, just like that. And now all we have left to do is tying knots with the ends of the wings in order to secure them in place. So I'm just going to tie a regular knot here. And I do the other side. And actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to tie some of my other loose ends as well before continuing on to the rest of the duck. Now that I've finished tying all of my ends, I'm gonna flip it back over, and this is what it looks like with the wings added onto the duck. And next we're going to continue on to round 14 and then round 15. So rounds 14 and 15 are pretty simple. We're just going to continue to crochet one single crochet into each stitch in the round. So I'm just crocheting my first stitch of round 14 here. It's the same as the last 3 rounds we just did. So just one single crochet into each stitch in the round for rounds 14 and then round 15. And I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll come back to show you how to do round 16. I just finished round 15, and at the end of round 15, we should still have a total of 36 stitches in our round. And now I'm going to start round 16. So round 16 is our first decrease round, and in this round, we are also going to be creating the feet with some orange yarn. And we're going to be creating the feet with a popcorn stitch, which I will show you how to do once we get there. But first, we're going to start by crocheting the first stitch of round 16, which is a single crochet. And we're going to start this round by crocheting one single crochet, one decrease, a total of 5 times in the color brown. So I already crocheted my first single crochet, and now I'm going to crochet a decrease and insert into the next stitch and crochet a single crochet. And for this next decrease here, I'll show you how I do it a little bit more slowly. So pretty much a decrease stitch is just crocheting 2 stitches together. So I insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, And instead of completing the stitch, I'm going to insert into the next stitch, pull up a third loop, and with 3 loops on my hook, I'm going to hook my yarn and pull it through all 3 loops. And that's how you do a decrease. So now I'm going to continue to crochet 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, a total of 3 more times since I've done it 2 times so far. Now I'm just crocheting my 5th decrease here. And before completing this decrease stitch with just 3 loops on my hook and drop my brown yarn, because instead of completing this decrease stitch with brown yarn, I am going to complete it with my orange yarn because I want my next stitch to be in the color orange. So I'm going to take my orange yarn, place it on my hook, and pull the orange yarn through all 3 of my loops so that my next stitch can be in the color orange. And this next stitch is a 4 double crochet popcorn stitch done in the color orange, of course. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this popcorn stitch. So we're going to start by yarning over, and we're going to crochet a total of 4 double crochet stitches into the next stitch. So 4 double crochet stitches into 1 stitch. So that is 1 double crochet stitch right here. I'll show you again. So we yarn over, insert back into that same stitch as the previous double crochet, and pull up a loop. And now with 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull our yarn through the first 2 loops and then pull our yarn through the last 2 loops. So I now have 2 double crochet stitches, so I'm going to crochet 2 more into the same stitch. But for this 4th double crochet here, once I have 2 loops on my hook here, instead of completing it with orange yarn, I am going to cut my orange yarn and instead complete the 4th double crochet in the popcorn stitch with my brown yarn. And I'm pulling up my brown yarn from where I didn't cut it earlier and completing this 4th double crochet with the brown yarn. So that's the first half of the popcorn stitch. So we have 4 double crochet stitches in 1 stitch. But in order to complete the popcorn stitch, what we have to do is we take out our hook out of the loop of the last stitch, and we insert our hook into the top of the first double crochet and then back into the loop of the last double crochet, and then we tighten the loop and then we pull the loop of our last stitch through the top of the first stitch. And by doing that, we have completed the popcorn stitch. So this is what a 4 double crochet popcorn stitch looks like. And our next stitch is a decrease stitch, but it can be a little difficult to see our next stitch in the round because of how bulky our popcorn stitch is. So you just want to push it aside so that we can see our next stitch right here more clearly. So like I said, our next stitch is a decrease. So I insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then insert into the stitch after that, pull up a 3rd loop, and pull the yarn through all 3 loops. And now we single crochet. And now we have to crochet a total of 2 decreases back to back. So 1 and 2. But instead of completing this decrease stitch with the color brown, we are going to put our brown yarn aside, pick up our orange yarn, and complete this decrease stitch with orange yarn instead so that our next stitch can be in the color orange. And our next stitch is the second 4 double crochet popcorn stitch, which will be done exactly the same way as the first one, but I'll show you once again. So we're going to yarn over, insert into the next stitch where we crochet 4 double crochets into 1 stitch before completing the 4th double crochet. We cut our orange yarn, pull up our brown yarn, and complete the 4th double crochet with brown yarn. Insert into the top of the 1st double crochet and then into the loop of the 4th double crochet. Pull the loop of the last stitch through the top of the 1st stitch. And now all we have left to crochet in this round after the second popcorn stitch is 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, a total of 4 times. So this next stitch here is a single crochet, and then a decrease. And now we're going to repeat that 3 more times. I just finished round 16, and in round 16, we did a total of 12 decreases, which brought our stitch count from 36 down to 24. And this is what the legs look like up close. So these 2 little popcorn stitches here, this is what they should look like. Now I'm going to start round 17. So the first stitch of round 17 is a single crochet, which I'm just going to do quickly. So for round 17, we're going to be crocheting 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, a total of 8 times in the round. So I've just reached the point in round 17 where I'm going to be working along where I did the popcorn stitch in the previous round, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like to work into where the popcorn stitch is. So my decrease, so the next stitch is a single crochet. So the popcorn stitch counts as 1 stitch. So even though it's made up of 4 double crochet stitches, it only counts as 1 stitch. So this little base section here is 1 stitch. So to insert into it, we just insert into the bottom of the popcorn stitch. Now I have to crochet a decrease. So you want to make sure not to skip the popcorn stitches as a stitch, and also you don't want to accidentally insert into it more than once. It just counts as 1 stitch. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like to insert into this. Again, I'm just crocheting a single crochet this time. And then this stitch right after it, you don't want to miss that one either. Just looks a little different than usual because of the popcorn stitches. And now I'm just going to work the rest of the round off camera. I just reached the end of round 17, and at the end of round 17, we should have a total of 16 stitches in the round. So as you can see, our hole at the bottom here is getting smaller pretty quickly. So before it gets any smaller, I'm just going to flip this inside out, and I'm going to tie a knot with the 2 strands of each one of the popcorn stitches, just to make sure everything's nice and secure. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the second popcorn stitch here. Another thing we're going to do before this hole gets too small is we are going to add stuffing. So I'm just going to stuff my duck, and the amount of stuffing you add is up to you. You can make it firm or you can make it nice and squishy. Now that I've stuffed my duck, I am going to continue on to round 18. So for round 18, we are going to be crocheting a total of 8 decreases in this round. So we are just going to decrease our way through this round. So all the way around, which ends up being a total of 8 decrease stitches. At the end of round 18, there should be a total of 8 stitches in the round. And now I'm going to cut my yarn, but I'm going to leave it kind of long, which you will see why in just a moment. And now I'm going to fasten off. And this is our last chance to add any extra stuffing if there's any more that you want to add before we close this hole. Now I'm going to thread this yarn tail here through a darning needle. And I'm going to weave this yarn tail through the front loop only of every stitch in round 18. So through the front loop only. Once I've weaved through all 8 stitches in round 18, I'm going to take my yarn and I am going to pull it until the hole closes. Just like that. And now I'm going to tie a knot and weave in my end. Just gonna tie second knot here, make sure it's extra secure, and weave in my end. We have finished making the duck, and this is what it looks like. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like this video and to let me know what you think in the comments down below. And make sure to subscribe for more tutorials just like this one. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye!